Hey up, want to learn a card game? If you're familiar with the channel, you've probably seen that we've played a few rounds of a certain card game we are rather fond of. However, if you're new to the channel, you're probably looking at the games we're playing and going, how exactly do we play? Today we're going to do a run through the basics of the Alpha Clash trading card game, and what some of the cards do, and how a turn works, just so you can get started in your own journey for Alpha Clash. Alpha Clash is a superhero indie card game, where you and a friend do battle with a number of contenders across a number of different clash grounds. As of recording, it's in its 7th set, the recently released Ancient Alphas, so there's a myriad of different cards to choose from when building decks. It's a pretty good time, and we're all very fond of it. When it comes to playing Alpha Clash, you will need the following things. You're going to need a contender and a 50 card deck, a portal card, a place to play, and an opponent. First, determine who starts the game. Our preferred method is a high roll on a dice, however you can use whatever method you want. Give your deck a shuffle and place it onto the game board. Then, reveal who you're playing as for your contender, and then place it onto the game board as well. A contender is essentially your representative on the battlefield. It has a standard attack and defense, a pool of health, as well as 2 abilities, one that is active from the very start of the game, and one that comes into effect after a certain health threshold is met. For example, this Magnate contender has its first ability active from the start of the game. However, when it reaches 12 health, a second ability activates. Throughout this video, we'll show off some of the basics with 2 of my personal favourite contenders, Magnate and Moxie. Finally, place a portal card in the close position between both game boards. After this is done, draw 8 cards. This will be your starting hand. If some of the cards don't tickle your fancy in that particular moment, don't worry, you have the option to mulligan some of these cards. Unlike other games like Magic the Gathering, Alpha Clash doesn't require you to take your entire hand and return it to the deck. Instead, it's selective. You can choose a number of cards in your hand to return to your deck, shuffle, and then redraw back up to 8 cards. We're going to go through a few example rounds of how a game is usually played. The Magnate player rolled higher in this case, and they choose to go first. A turn in Alpha Clash has around 5 different phases. At the start of the turn phase, any effects that trigger at the start of the turn will begin here. Expansion phase. Usually, the expansion phase resolves in readying all of your cards that you control, drawing a card from the deck, and then adding 1 card into the resource zone from your hand. As it's the first turn, we have no cards to ready, and the player that goes first does not draw a card. In the resource step, you may take a card from your hand and place it as a resource. Resources are the main way you're able to play cards in Alpha Clash. Each card you play in Alpha Clash has a resource value in the top right hand corner. You must use that many resources in order to play that card. The colour of the resource is determined by the colour of the card, indicated here. Additionally, cards will have a number of pips along the right hand side of the card. This shows the number of resources used that have to be a certain colour. So here, the Magnate player chooses to put a card in the resource zone to generate a green resource. We now move to the primary phase. This is the part of the turn where you're able to take actions, play cards, set traps, bring out equipment, or declare attacks. To play a card, you engage the number of resources the card costs to play. In this case, the Magnate player chooses to play Magnate Cutting Planner. They engage their 1 resource by turning it to the side, and play that card in the Clash Zone. This card is a Clash card. In other games, they're equivalent to your creatures or your monster types, and are used to deal damage or block other attacks from your opponents. Because the Magnate player no longer has any actions it can take, and no attacks can be declared until the next turn, we shall move forward to the end phase. It is now the Moxie player's turn. It is no longer the first turn of the game, so the Moxie player now can draw a card. Like the Magnate player, the Moxie player places a card into the resource zone, moves to the primary phase, where they play Moxie, preparing for battle. Now that we've played a card in the primary phase and can issue an attack, we can now declare a clash. This is the combat phase of Alpha Clash, wherein clash cards or contenders can engage with the opposing player's clash cards or contender to do damage. The clash phase has 5 parts. The attack step. The attacking player chooses one clash or contender card to initiate the attack. When this occurs, the attacking player moves the attacking card from a ready position to an engaged position. An attacking card can only target another engaged clash card or contender. A ready clash card cannot be targeted in a clash. As mentioned, Moxie, preparing for battle, has chosen to attack the Magnate contender. Counter step. The defending player may activate a number of quick actions, traps or effects with the trigger tag of counter attack one at a time. When all the defending effects have resolved, we move on to the next step. In this instance, the Magnate player has no responses, so we move on to the next step of the clash phase. The obstruct step. The defending player may use one or more ready clash cards to obstruct the attacking clash card. When this happens, the target of the attack changes to the obstructing clash cards. Engaged clash cards cannot be used to obstruct. Contenders, with a couple of exceptions, can also not be used to obstruct an attack. In this instance, Magnate Cunning Planner is used to obstruct the attack from Moxie preparing for battle. The Clash Buff step. It's at this point that both players may play a Clash Buff. A Clash Buff is a powerful quick action card that can be used to buff or debuff clash cards to give your side of the clash an advantage. The attacking player gets priority to declare if they are going to use a Clash Buff first, followed by the defending player, who may play a Clash Buff afterwards. In this case, neither player is able to play a Clash Buff, as they do not have the resources to do so. Damage step. In Alpha Clash, there are 2 types of damage: clash damage, which is dealt during the clash phase, or non-clash damage, which is dealt by effects and actions outside of a clash. During a clash, damage is totaled and dealt simultaneously. The total attack power of each card is dealt to the opposing clash card and reduces their defense by that total. If a clash card's defense is reduced to 0, it is defeated and removed from play. Here, because of Magnate's contender ability, Magnate Cunning Power has an attack value of 2 and a defense value of 1. Moxie preparing for battle has 1 attack and defense. As a result, Moxie's defense is reduced to 0 and is defeated. The clash card is then sent to oblivion. After a clash is completed, we move back to the primary phase until any and all actions are completed. Additionally, all damage dealt during the clash phase is healed by any surviving cards. As a result, Magnate Cunning Planner is restored to full health. The Moxie player in this instance has no further actions available, and so will end their turn. Magnate's player then enters the start of turn phase and expansion phase, and readies all resources and clash cards that this player controls. We're now going to look at another clash later in the game. It's the Moxie player's turn. Moxie Enraged is declaring a clash with Magnate to remove it from the board. We go through the same steps as before, declaring the clash, Moxie Enraged into a Magnate. The Magnate player, like previously, has no cards that they can play that has an effect in the counter step. Obstruct step, there is no available obstructing clash cards. Clash Buff step. Moxie's player plays the Clash Buff Deflating, which when coupled with the effects and the resources used, reduce Magnate's attacks and defense by 2. The Magnate player is tapped out and cannot respond with their own Clash Buff. Damage is totaled, Magnate is reduced to 0 defense and defeated. In the circumstances that the Magnate player had the resources, they may have been able to play their own Clash Buff in response, which would have given Magnate the advantage. The clash phase would revert to the primary phase, and the game would continue. Those are the basics of combat in Alpha Clash. However, there are several other cards that can be used other than just Clash cards and Clash buffs. Here is a general rundown of the other cards that can be played and used to your advantage in a game. Accessories: traps, weapons, and relics. Accessory cards fall into 3 categories: traps, weapons, and relics. Each of these cards are played into the accessory zone of your board. Traps are, as the name suggests, cards that you can spring onto your opponent when the circumstances are right and trap their game plan in a vice. Trap cards are played face down in the accessory zone, and when you wish to use the trap card, you may pay for its resource cost and flip the card. You do not have to pay resources to place the card in your zone, but you have to pay the cost to play it. Weapons are additional armaments that you can equip onto your Clash cards to give them the edge in the clash. Once these cards are played into the accessory zone, you may pay the separate cost of the resource indicated on the weapon to attach it to a Clash card. Generally, a Clash card can only have one weapon equipped at any time. You can also unequip weapons from your Clash cards to attach to a different Clash card if needed by paying the same cost. Relics are unique cards that add passive or active effects to the game state. Each relic has its own unique uses and can be pivotal to your strategy, such as allowing triggers to activate twice, allowing alternate ways to bring cards onto the board, or even prevent players from using abilities on certain cards. Clash Grounds. Clash Grounds are arena cards that set the stage for where the clash takes place. These cards are placed in their own designated area of the board. There can only be one Clash Ground on the board at any time. If a Clash Ground is played when there is already one on the board present, the previous Clash Ground is replaced with a new Clash Ground card. Action cards are pretty self-explanatory. They do actions. Action cards are one-use cards that upon play resolve effects and then discarded. You can use action cards to draw cards, deal non-clash damage, give temporary buffs, and a myriad of other possible outcomes. There are 2 types of action cards: basic and quick actions. Basic actions can be played during the primary phase of your turn, whereas quick actions can be played in response to your opponent during their turn. In this instance, a clash buff counts as a quick action. Finally, we have the portal card. The portal card is a permanent card that stays in the centre of the board during the game. During the primary phase, you may pay 2 resources of any colour to either open or close the portal, depending on what the state is at the time. Opening or closing the portal can activate certain effects of cards that have modifiers for either when the portal is open or closed. Choosing to open or close the portal to provide yourself an advantage, or to deny an advantage to your opponent, is baked into the strategy of the game. Winning the game. There are 3 general ways that you can win a game of Alpha Clash. The first is doing enough damage to the opponent's contender to reduce their health to 0. Once a contender's health is at 0, the game is over. The second way that you can win a game is decking out your opponent. If your opponent goes to the draw step and is unable to draw any cards as there is no cards left to draw in the deck, they lose the game. Additionally, certain cards can provide a certain win condition that can be attained that doesn't involve defeating the contender or decking out the opponent. This should cover most of the basics when it comes to playing Alpha Clash. I hope you learned something and are inspired to start playing the game and joining our community. I intend to be producing another video with slightly more in-depth explanations for certain mechanics and the basis of building a first deck. But until then, thank you for watching and we shall see you next time.